So, I'm a woman of many thoughts, and I have a question, but don't take it personal.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. Ooh. I was walking in the deep dark.
Hear me out. I've been doing some research. So here's the conversation. You know, most of us grew up with some version of the same instructions. You know, they tell us to go to school, get our education, learn how to do something well. You know, they tell us to get ourselves a good job thereafter and then work hard to take care of our family and even save something. And then they say if we do all those things reasonably well, the expectation is that we will be able to build some kind of good life. It might not be a perfect life and it might not be a rich life, but it will be a good life. Or just it'll be a life. We'll have a home, we'll have food, we'll have transportation, we may even have children someday. We might even have stability and hopefully something left over to help the next generation do a little bit better. But there is something happening right now, and I think it deserves more than a passing conversation. Technology is beginning to change the value of the work itself. Keywords, I want you to understand that. The value of the work itself. Not just bad workers, not just people who did not prepare, not just people who did not go to school. Some of the very tasks people were told to become highly skilled in are now among the tasks businesses are learning to do faster with artificial intelligence. I said it. AI. Now, mind you, I'm a business owner, I'm a business consultant, and I use AI integrations to support business workflows, but not without human touch. Conscious mind tells me, and a kingdom mind tells me, I don't have the power nor authority to eliminate what God put here, nor to come in the way of someone being able to do well for themselves, or do okay, or get by. Who am I to cause that barrier? But I'm not the one making the higher level decisions that's going to change the trajectory of all of our lives. So is that a fight and flight? Or is that an equip and understand? Is that an equip and make sure that you find out what is happening so that you can know which way to go? Otherwise, all life is aimless living. Is that you? I hope that you're part of the individual that wants to understand and know better to be able to do better. So listen, AI is writing, it's doing research, it's doing analysis, it codes, obviously. It's doing administrative work, it's doing customer support, it's doing parts of accounting, parts of legal work, parts of management. I'm in management. And this is where I want us to pay attention. Because the conversation we have mostly been given is, don't worry, learn something new. That's okay, but what if the thing that I'm learning is changing too? What if I finish retraining just in time for technology to start changing that job too? And even beyond that, what if what happens to the family that was built around the income while all of this was adjusting? And all of this adjusting is taking place. Because when someone loses their income, this is not just a workforce statistic. That's somebody's mortgage, somebody's grocery bill. That's somebody deciding whether their child can stay in an activity or not. That's somebody spending less at a neighborhood restaurant, somebody not hiring the local contractor, and eventually that reaches businesses, communities, churches, schools, taxes. So the conversation is bigger. We are talking about livelihood here. We are talking about whether people retrain the ability to produce enough economic value to sustain themselves and people connected to them while the economy underneath them is changing. And for those of us who say that we believe, believers, come on, higher level. If we believe, I think there is another layer that we have to consider, because the Bible tells us in Proverbs that the prudent see danger and take refuge. That does not mean panic, and it does not mean fear everything that is coming. It doesn't even mean fear anything that is coming. And it certainly does not mean technology is the enemy. It means wisdom pays attention. Wisdom does not wait until something is sitting in the living room before it decides it might be worth understanding. And 2 Timothy tells us to study to show thyself approved. So maybe part of being faithful in a changing world is refusing to be intellectually asleep in it. Maybe faith does not remove our responsibility to understand what is happening around us. Maybe it increases it. Because if I am responsible for my family, if I am running a business, if I am helping to lead a community, if I am raising children, if somebody is depending on my judgment, then I need enough understanding to recognize when the terrain of life is changing. Not 5 years after it changes. Wow, it's changing. And well, here's the thing, when it comes to AI, so many of us are so far behind the curve of trying to catch up with what was already happening. So AI didn't just populate. It didn't just pop up, right? And that is why we are going to have these conversations, not because I have come here to tell you that technology is bad, and definitely not because I think we should be scared of the future, because we shouldn't. Because I believe people should understand the world they are being asked to live in. Now, think about that. We live in a world, but then if things are changing around you and it is creating a whole nother climate and culture that you have to pretty much figure out, we're babies in a whole new world. You're being asked to live in this whole new world. The world order, everything must change and shift, because you got to think AI right now doesn't even align to our education. Our kids are in school, going to colleges and learning things that pretty much is obsolete right now. And believers should be some of the most thoughtful people in the room. Not the loudest, not the most fearful. We should be the most discerning. Here's the question. If doing everything we were taught to do is no longer guaranteed to produce the economic stability it once did, what do individuals, families, businesses, and communities need to begin understanding now, before somebody else decides what our adjustment will have to be later? And I do not think the answer is fear. I don't think the answer is rejecting technology. And I don't think the answer is pretending nothing is changing. I think the answer starts with awareness. Pay attention, study, ask better questions. Understand where the world is moving before the consequences of that movement arrive at your front door. Because the preparation does not require us to predict everything correctly. It requires us to be awake enough to recognize when something important is changing, but making sure we are thinking, making sure we are paying attention, and making sure that while the world is building what comes next, we are building the understanding, wisdom, and capacity to live well inside of it. So yes, it's a question. Don't take it personal, but don't ignore it either.